Hello, students. This lesson is about point of view, identifying common views and the writer's point of view. Writers sometimes present two different points of view on an issue. First, they present a point of view that is commonly held by many people or by a specific group of people. Then they present their own or some other opposing point of view. Usually writers then explain why one point of view is preferable. Let's look at an example. Some people claim that waking someone who is sleepwalking can cause brain damage. Now, this first sentence contains an idea about waking someone who is sleepwalking. The word claim, which is right here, is a view marker, a word that tells readers that the writer considers what comes next to be an opinion, not a fact. So if you use the word claim, it's not necessarily something that is true. The next sentence says, yet this theory is invalid since it has not been supported by science. So sentence 2 begins with yet, a contrast marker. It tells readers to expect the writer's disagreement with sentence 1. The word invalid is an assessment marker, a word the writer uses to judge, here negatively, the view that is expressed in the first sentence. So the writer says yet, and yet contrasts. It's a contrast word. So that this means that the writer is going to say a different view that contrasts with the view that was said in the first sentence. And then when the writer uses the word invalid, it's an assessment marker because it's like saying that's not true. So the writer is judging this view. Let's look at the third sentence. Though waking someone in that state might cause them temporary confusion, actually it is perfectly harmless to do so. So sentence 3 offers a different view about waking someone who is sleepwalking. The word actually, it's right here. The word actually emphasizes that the writer believes this view. So when you say actually, it's like saying, here is what's really true. So the writer's view here is that it is perfectly harmless to do so. To do what? To wake someone who is sleepwalking. And now let's look at the last sentence. It would be better to wake them than to let them continue moving around unconsciously and possibly hurt themselves. So in this last sentence, sentence 4, it contains an additional argument that further supports the writer's point of view. Here are some view markers. These are words that you can identify in a text that show that a view is going to be given. So here are verbs such as to accuse, to allege, to argue, to assume, to think, to view, to assert. There's lots of words here. Take some time to read them, get to know these words. Also nouns. These are words like accusation, which is the noun form of accuse, of this word accuse, or allegation, which is the noun form of allege, and so forth. These words here are also used to show that the writer is going to talk about a point of view. You should take some time to read these words, make sure you understand them, and then move on in the video. Here are some contrast markers: although, even though, but, however, yet. You should read these and also make sure you understand them before you move on in the video. And here are assessment markers. Assessment markers are words that indicate approval or disapproval of the common view. These are words that the writer could use to show that they agree, that would be approval, or they disagree, that would be disapproval. So they use these words to judge the view that they're talking about. You know, they might talk about the accuracy of the view, or that the view has a defect, or it has an error, or a fallacy, or a flaw, or that the view is an illusion. These are all nouns here. And then also the author might use adjectives to describe the view as being defective or erroneous or false, and so forth. Go ahead and read these words and get to know them. They're good words to know when you're reading a text so that you can identify what the author thinks of a particular view. So remember, when you're reading, look for view markers. Those were the words such as belief, or think, or thought, or claim. Those words establish that you are reading about what the writer considers to be opinions, not facts. And so those words are going to help you identify the common view. Also look for contrast markers. Use them to identify where the first view ends, where the common view ends, basically, because it's going to signal that a new view is coming, a different view is coming. Also look for assessment markers. Use them to identify the opposing view too, because the author will judge the view that they previously mentioned, and then right after the assessment marker, they'll probably say what they believe, what their view is. Okay, now let's try this. We're going to identify the view markers and the common views in these sentences. Many people think that genes code for specific characteristics, such as brown eyes or dimples? Do you see the view marker in this sentence? Here it is. Think. It's what people think. And what is it that people think? They think that genes code for specific characteristics, such as brown eyes or dimples. So that would be the common view. The common view would be what people think, and that's this. Okay, let's look at number 2. It is assumed to be true that astronauts can see the Great Wall of China from space. So first of all, what is the view marker? The view marker here is assumed. Okay, and then what is assumed? What is the common view that is assumed? The common view is that astronauts can see the Great Wall of China from space. Okay, looking at number 3. Some scholars maintain the argument that the brain is hardwired to perform specific functions, such as math. What is the view marker? Here, it's maintain the argument. It's kind of like saying they believe or they argue. It's just another way of saying it. Maintain is kind of like keep. They keep the argument. So maintain the argument would be the view marker. And what is the argument that they maintain? They maintain the argument that the brain is hardwired to perform specific functions, such as math. That is the common view. Now we're going to read a short paragraph, and we're going to identify the contrast markers, the assessment markers, and we're also going to identify the writer's view. The writer's view is going to oppose the common view. So let's look at this. Many people think that genes code for specific characteristics, such as brown eyes or dimples. However, this illusion comes from an inaccurate understanding of genetics. Genes actually code for proteins, which interact within a complex system that does eventually result in diverse traits, but not in the way that is commonly assumed. So first, can you find the contrast marker? Here it is. However, that is the contrast marker. And now, can you find the assessment marker? There's actually 2 assessment markers here. When the writer calls the common belief an illusion, that's judging the belief as it's just in somebody's imagination. It's just all up in their head. And so that's an assessment marker by calling it an illusion. Also, when the writer says that the belief is inaccurate, that's another way of judging the common belief as wrong. Now, can you find the writer's point of view? Well, actually, the last sentence is giving the writer's point of view. Push pause, read this, and identify the contrast markers, assessment markers, and writer's view. And check your answer. Okay, pause and do the same thing with this one. And there you go.